Good afternoon. So, as you all know, we were talking about the concept called nationalism, growth of nationalism. So, already we started talking about the industrial revolution, the concept. The previous class we have talked the features of the industrial revolution. Then we have also talked the causes for the industrial revolution. Then we had also discussed about the spread of industrial revolution. Then we had entered into the last topic of the lesson, the concept called industrial revolution. So that was impact of industrial revolution. So when this industrial revolution, when it started, so what are the changes that took place in the European countries? Okay, that we call it as an impact. So in that, the previous class we started with the one of the most important impact. So that is economic impact. Okay, so economic impact. So in that last class, I talked about the concept called urbanization. Because of the economic changes or economic lifestyle changes, the town and cities started to exist, where the concept of urbanization started. Then factory system. So as you all know, before the industrial revolution, the domestic system of production we were having it. So that was replaced, and we started to have a concept called, or we started to have a concept called the factory system of production. Okay, that started to take place. Then division in work in factories, the many groups were started to create because of the task and because of the specialized the talent or capacity or the ability of a person was started to see in the factories. Based on that, the works were divided. Okay, division of labor also was done. Then the capitalism and the economic disparity. Okay, so because of the capitalist, that is the rich the personalities or rich man, one who started the industries. So how the economic the disparity is started to see, or the economic status is started to compare. So with the labors or the workers. So we had seen in the previous class. So today's class we will be going with the two more economic impact. One is the expansion of trade and commerce. Then one is concept of socialism. Then we will get into the second impact, that is social effects. Okay. So when we see here expansion of trade and commerce, okay, expansion of trade and commerce, if you see, the main backbone of the industries and the reason the industry to flourish in a rich and prosperous, it's because of a trade and commerce. If there is no trade and commerce, obviously there won't be an the industries, because industry is an big network. So where there will be having a means of production in large in number. Okay, when it is there in the large in number, so the exchange or the trade. Okay, the means of production or whatever the manufactured goods, they are supposed to transport it from one country to another country. So that started to become a very special, and that started to realize one of the most important during the industrial revolution, and that was the trade and commerce. Okay, large scale, you can see here the large scale of production which was there. Always the in industry, the production is in large scale. Okay, the large scale of production led to expansion of trade. Okay, since the large scale production was there, the manufactured goods was there, so the person was looking for an transport of the goods. So that transport of the goods from one country to another country, so it gave a concept called the trade and commerce. Because that's the one aspect which we are having. Then we are having surplus goods were sold to other countries. Okay, so not only the England was having the industries, or not only the USA was having the industries, or Japan or Russia, whichever countries. So whatever the countries where they were having the industries, whatever the manufactured goods, they were having it in their own countries. So they started to, that surplus good, they started to transport it to another countries. Okay, so from one country to another country. So that made the concept of trade to be exist. Okay, the surplus goods. Okay, the surplus goods, the more goods which were there in the particular countries, so they started to transport it for other countries. So that made okay, so that resulted in trade and commerce. And next, the third one, if you see, trade and commerce expansion. Okay, what is the reason? Because of the trade and commerce. Okay, because of the trade and commerce, and why this trade and commerce started to, have it, or why this trade and commerce started to have the impact. Okay, what are the impacts? If you see, first and foremost is increasing the profits. So day by day, the profit of the country started to increase. So that made the person rich and the country to have a prosperous life. Okay, the persons became rich and the people started to lead a prosperous life. That is the first changes which was brought in. This trade and commerce, because of the trade and commerce. Second change is steamships were started to float. Okay, the steamships started to float. That is the second changes. And the third one, if you see, exist of new markets. Okay, the system of markets where the goods, the manufactured goods were taken, and all different countries were started to gather there, and there the wanted goods were taken by them, and where the export and the import were taking. Okay, the export and import new markets started to take place. And sale of finished products. Okay, now handmade goods. Before industrial revolution, we were having it. That was not a finished product. It was not an attractive. But whereas the machine goods, they were called as a finished products. It was very attractive to the people. When industrial revolution started to take place, the attractive products started to sell, and that made that attractive goods or the sale of finished product from one country to another country, and it was carried out by trade and commerce. It's because of trade and commerce the sale of finished products started to travel from one country to another country. Then acquire of colonies. Okay, because of this, when one country was becoming rich and prosperous because of their profits, when I was having, or when one country was having, or one capitalist, one rich capitalist, one who was having the one industries, next year he started to make it two. So like that, in a year he started to make more than 10 to 15 industries he started, or he established it. But one fine day, what happened? The profit what the rich man was getting, so that profit he wanted to invest, or the capital which was getting for him, he wanted to invest. He wanted to start the industries. But to start the industries, he was not having a place. Okay, so when he was not having a place, so what he did, he started to look for a place neighboring states where he was living, by that the neighboring states where the place or where that particular land may not belongs to that particular rich man or to that particular country. Okay, so that led to the concept of acquire of colonies. Now, how British people came to India and they captured. When India was colony, when British captured. So like that, the people who were not belongs to that particular place, but they started to control that place. So that concept gave colonies. It's all started because of the competition existed between the countries. Okay, the competition existed between the countries which were having the industrialized nation, which we call it as an industrialized nations. So that countries have started to have competitions. That competition leads to acquire of colonies. And finally, supply of raw materials, useless goods. When farmer was having a cultivation, and when he gets a good, in the land, but the capitalists, they used to buy it, or they used to call that particular goods as a raw material, useless goods. Where when we call it as a useless good, it is sold for a very cheap rate. So in the same way, British people also did it in our country. Whatever the production or whatever the cultivation or whatever the means of production we were having in our country, that they called it as a raw materials, where they take it for a cheaper rate and they send it to the England. They manufactured the machine-made goods. Same goods was brought in. The goods which was called as a raw material, the same goods came to India as manufactured machine-made goods, where people were attracted. So same way, the supply of raw materials also started to exist. Okay, so all these changes, expansion of trade, finally in the 20th century, it gave the impact of First World War. Okay, because of all these changes, because of the industrial revolution, the changes which took place that resulted in 20th century for the First World War. Okay, that's we will see it in the when you come to class 10th. So that's one aspect we are having it. Then second, the last economic impact we are having, concept of socialism. Okay, the concept of socialism. So we are having it. So when we see the concept of socialism, what is the socialism? If you see, it is a reaction. It's a kind of reaction to the evils of capitalism. Okay, evils of a capitalism. That means the evil practice which was done by a capitalist, the rich man. Okay, to that the reaction was given by a people. So that's nothing but socialism. What is that evil practice was done by this rich capitalist? Okay, so that we can see in the coming points. Okay, the second point says it is a system under no private ownership of a capital. There is no socialism is a kind of system. It's a kind of system which is not under the control of one person. It is not under the control of one person. No private ownership of the capital for this socialism concept. But it is a socialist setup. Either rich or poor joined together and they are given a concept called as socialism. It's just something like a movement to fight against someone. But here, socialism is a movement started by a group of a socialist setup to fight against the rich capitalist. Okay, so rich capitalist. What is the main concept of this socialism? If you see, the socialism says whatever the means of production, the capitalist earn it, or the capitalists they get it in the form of profits. Let that will be shared equally with the people, because it's they are having an enormous profit, and they are having the increasing their profits because of the workers. If there is no workers, there is no capitalist. Okay, when that concept, when workers and capitalists, when they go together, these people has to be treated equally, but that equal treatment was not there. Instead of that, what they were doing, they were showing their evils characters. What are their evils characters? You see, one is to remove the exploitation, the workers, making the workers to work overnight, over a day. So that they wanted to remove it, remove the exploitation. Then establish social equality. There should not be any discrimination between rich and poor. All are one. That concept should be there. Then remove class society. Okay, rich people separate group, poor people separate group. No. That gulf, the gap should not be there. Instead, they should have an establish of classless society. All are together. Majorly, the socialism concept speaks only about the concept of equality. So that's the one concept, so which we are having it. So that's the one aspect, so which we are having it. Then when we come to the second impact, that is social effects. So in that first only we will be having the social inequality. Okay, so because of industrial revolution, the society life started to get changed. There was change in the society life. So what that changes, if you see, exist of economic disparity. There is nothing but rich and poor. This is the major society or social lifestyle started to change when the industrial revolution started, where the capitalist and the poor workers, as already I said, capitalist haves and poor workers have nots. Okay, the rich man started to become a richer, and whereas the poor man remained as a poor. Okay, that is the concept here. It's because of economic disparity. And this economic disparity led to an cross social inequality. So the people, they themselves started to divide rich and poor in a society. That started to spread in almost in the European countries. Okay, the wide gulf between the capitalists and the workers. So based on social inequality, based on what they started to have a division that they are called rich and they are poor, it's all because status. A rich man was having a good status, a poor man was having no status. So based on that status, they themselves started dividing. They are rich and they are poor. Okay, so that's about the social effects. One, we are having it. So one more concept we are having under the social effects, and as well as the political effects also we are having it. Then we will go with the concept of imperialism. So till here you can just go through it. If you have any doubts, so let me know in the next class, or else we will move with the next class. We will move with the some more social effects, and we will political effects. Then concept of imperialism we will go with the next class. Thank you.